My name is Diane Evans. I live in Guilderland, which is a suburb of Albany, and I consider myself a fiber artist. So I've always been interested in sewing and creating and working with fiber, and then about 12 years ago went to a friend's house and I saw a wall quilt hanging in her home, and something struck me about it. The idea of creating art with fabric I had never thought of before. And she was very good to me. She took me shopping, told me how to pick out fabric. We bought fabric. I made my first quilt. Made a lot of mistakes, used a lot of wrong things. The pieces didn't quite fit together, but I made them fit. And then I had, everybody has the aha moment, or the time when they feel that something has really struck their heart. And I saw a picture of a quilt by a very famous quilt artist, Carol Fallard is her name. It was a groundbreaking quilt, and it was called Corona 2 Solar Eclipse. It was absolutely magnificent. I saw a picture of it in a book, and I said, that's what I want to do. And I found where she was giving classes. I took my first workshop from her and kept moving in that direction. I was hooked. I think that there are a lot of connections between art quilts and mathematics, at least the way I do them. There are so many different ways of approaching art. You can do it improvisationally, put a piece of fabric up on the wall and then cut pieces of fabric and put them up there until you see what you like. I think the left brain dominance in me said, I'd like to draw out some things using properties of geometry and symmetry. And I love things that radiate from the center and reflecting things. So all of that came into play for me to create quilts, because I could sit down with a piece of graph paper and draw something out and make it do those things that applied the aspects of geometry, which is, I think, my favorite math subject, and bring that into the quilt. I even used trigonometry to create quilting lines, because trigonometry involves so many of these undulating curves called sine curves and cosine curves, so I drafted some of those on occasion to put quilting into the quilt. I think the tactile nature of fiber art attracted me to it. I also have never thought of myself as a painter. I don't sketch well. I sketch, and I force myself to do it, and I think I'm getting better, but I've never considered myself an artist who could draw something like a Norman Rockwell can. So the idea of taking fabric and making it look like patches of paint on a canvas was intriguing to me, the challenge of it. And then, of course, when you pull the fabric off the wall and you lay it all on the table and you're throwing it all over the place and digging through it, the feel of it, the texture of it, seeing what it does, it excites me. There are different ways that I have of starting a piece. Probably the most common way I have is to sketch out a little drawing of it and decide, do I want the drawing to stay that size, or do I want to blow it up to a 60 by 60? And if I decide I want to do that, I put it on transparency. Using that, I project it onto a large piece of paper on the wall, trace it onto that piece of paper, refine the details, get all those curves nice and smooth. And then I use an applique process, and that requires that you take the shapes of what you've drawn, trace them onto a piece of fiber that can be ironed to the back of the fabric itself. And when you do that, then you cut out the fabric and applique it down. That's when the sewing actually begins. Sometimes in between, I will take that small drawing and I'll go to the computer and use Photoshop elements to color it in. And sometimes I don't. I'm trying to be a little more spontaneous. Spontaneous is not a word that is in my vocabulary and hasn't been there for a while, so I'm trying to introduce it, bring it in more. So I'll try things out, and as many fiber artists have said, it's only fabric. You can always buy more. And I have to think about that. So you cut the fabric, you put it up. If it doesn't work, you toss it. I'm always looking for something unique in materials, and we're so lucky in the fiber art world because so many people are now hand dyeing fabrics, and that means that every piece of fabric you get is different from what the other guy got. It's only recently that I've begun thinking about what inspires me and what my muses are, and I guess I've decided by default, by looking back at what I've done, that I love nature and music, as well as the geometry which comes into it. There's a favorite quote I have from the French writer Marcel Proust, and it says, "The real voyage of discovery lies not in seeking new landscapes, but in having new eyes." It's only recently that I've started to do commission work, and I'm finding that I really enjoy it. I've found some wonderful ways to market my art. The most wonderful way has been my association with Janet Tanguay and Art and Soul. She posts your work on her website, and it is seen by many, many people. I also use my own blog, and I have a website. The two of them are linked together. I participate in gallery shows. I've been very fortunate to be invited to participate, and there are other group shows that I've participated in this area and in the Saratoga area. And then I enter my larger pieces in quilt shows all around the country. My quilts have traveled more than I have. They've been to some wonderful places. I want to get better at what I'm doing. I want to keep learning. I want to take more workshops from different artists. I've started a journal, a visual journal, where I want to have a place where I'm free to make mistakes. I need to try to get a little more improvisation into my work. I need to experiment a little more, and this is a place where I'm finding I'm doing it, where I can draw something and nobody else has to see it but me. The author Julia Cameron, who I mentioned before, who wrote The Artist's Way, has a wonderful quote in the book. She says that above her workstation, she has a piece of paper that says, "God, you take care of the quality, I'll take care of the quantity." The message there is do the work, and I have found that that's true. If I sit and think about what I want to create, I'm just going to sit and think about what I want to create. I won't move forward. You have to do the work, produce pieces that you love to do, read everything you can get your hands on, learn from the best. People go to museums and they sketch from paintings that are in museums. Do the same kind of thing with quilts that you love from books that you love. If you do all of this, it's your passion, it won't be your work. Someone told me one time that the quilt will speak to you. It will tell you what it wants, and it will tell you when it's done. And I've experienced that. I really have. I wasn't quite sure I knew what that meant because I'm a planner, and I like to plan pretty much the whole quilt out before I start. But I have found that I can leave some room for tweaking before the quilt is actually done. So I think that I'm opening my mind a little more to changes even after all the planning has been made. I have been known to take a quilt, literally take it apart, undo the quilting, undo the piece, restitch it, put in something different after it's been done if I'm looking at it and it really bothers me, if it keeps me awake at night. And that's the left brain working. So I need to quiet the left brain down a little bit and say, save it for the next quilt. If you look at that quilt and say, it really needs tweaking, I really want to take it apart, see if you can tell yourself, save it for the next quilt, make another one, and do that on the next quilt. So I'm working on that. I'd like to make that one great quilt that makes my heart sing. It's in there, I know it's in there, and I've made several that, you know, make me happy, bring me joy. I think that you keep on growing because you have that inside of you, and you say, well, that was a nice quilt, but I'll bet I can do better. So those are the kinds of things that keep me moving forward.